everyone, and welcome to another round of questions and answers with Mamas Uncut, where you send in your questions about parenting, motherhood, relationships, and we give you the best advice we possibly can. And don't worry, all of the questions that you send in always remain anonymous. So again, we're welcoming back Lisa and Mindy. You guys ready to answer some questions?
Absolutely.
All right, let's get to it. All right, so bear with me. This first one is kind of long. I feel like my mother-in-law attacks me. Do we have any advice? I want to start by saying I have a wonderful husband. We've been together for almost 9 years. We have 2 daughters together, and he has a 17-year-old from a previous relationship who lives with us. We have an amazing relationship, but it becomes very ugly when his mom gets in the way. Last October, during the pandemic, the mother-in-law wanted to come live with us. So we told her we could split time between us and the sister-in-law to give both families some space and privacy. When she's here, she doesn't help at all, like at all. No cooking, no cleaning, no babysitting. She would hold the baby, but as soon as the baby starts crying, she gives her back to me. And the only one who tries to keep the house clean and cooks and takes care of the girls is me. But now I'm starting to see that my mother-in-law is being super rude to me. I brought it up to my husband and we've tried to talk about it. But then when we did, she kept calling me lazy and dependent. She hates that the husband has to take care of the girls after work so that I can have a 1-hour workout. So, how would you deal with something like this? Do you think she's attacking me? Where do I go from here?
I can relate a lot to this mom, not with the mother-in-law issues necessarily, but definitely where she's at with her children, not sleeping. I have kids in the same age groups. It's exhausting. And I also stay home, do a lot of the housework falls on me. But I first want to stop. And I think her husband's doing a good job assisting her with the stress that she has in her life. Yeah. I want to talk about that a little bit first, because I think it's more of, I would come at it. I wouldn't, if I was having an issue with in-law, especially if we were in a sensitive situation where they were living with me, I would not be the one to bring it up. I would definitely tell my husband, you need to put some hard boundaries down. This is not working. I can't. I'm already stressed because I'm not sleeping. I'm taking care of a baby. I'm taking care of a 4-year-old. I have a lot on my plate. I need you to be able to fix this situation with your mom, or she can't live with us. Because I think that you need to, at some point, make your family unit the priority. I don't think she should be talking to her mother-in-law about this at all. And the husband, when he's having that conversation, needs to take it all on him. He can't make it sound like his wife is any part of this, because that will just explode. She needs to hear it from her son, because I don't think she'll listen to her daughter-in-law.
So when I read this question, I felt terrible for this mom. Mm-hmm. And the reason being is it's kind of it's very difficult to see a path through this for me, other than the woman herself just laying down the law. And so I'm going to take maybe the counter view from you, Mindy.
Go for it.
And the reason for that is I had a very strong mother-in-law. She's a pediatrician. She's a doctor. We were both career women, and her son lived for her. And I had a similar event when my daughter was young, where she got annoyed at me that I had her son hold the baby while I ate first. Like one time, once, the entire time she was with us, I ate first. And I was like, you hold the baby. And he was totally cool, no issue with it. And she flipped out. He should always eat first, I eat after, right? And this is, that obviously didn't sit well with me. At the end of the day, he would, like, getting a mama's boy, or getting, the son getting the son who's very close to his mother to stand up to his mother is almost never works, in my opinion. And it's very difficult for a son who's close to his mom to set those boundaries. And so it's, unless she's willing to do it, but you're right, Mindy, in the things that you brought up, which is the mom's unlikely to hear it well, the mom's unlikely to care. There's so many downsides to to the woman having to take care of it herself. But in my experience, the husband and the mom relationship is just so, is always just so challenged from a boundary perspective. I mean, I look at my brother and my own mom. The lack of boundaries between those two is insane. And I just don't even know how either of them functions in that environment. Right. and so I think, and I know this is a very long answer, but if the woman wants the change, I think she's got to stand up on her own. And like, I've had some arguments with my former mother-in-law, and we get along pretty well. Even today, like I stay at her house when I go visit and when I take my kids to Boston and things like that. So we have a very good relationship, but it took a long time to get there. And like the respect only came when I started standing up for myself.
Right. I think I take a little bit from like each of you. I see this in like a step situation. So like in the question, she had mentioned that she's always very respectful to her mother-in-law, which I think is a good thing for now. And we only get like a certain view of, you know, the whole situation. But I'm wondering if the husband has ever looked at his mom and not aggressively or anything, but just say, I don't mind doing these things. Like we're in a partnership like this, you know,
he sounds like a good guy.
What I'm supposed to be doing, you know, because I also think there's probably a generational gap there too. You know, a lot of like our grandparents or my grandparents, you know, they had this sort of role, you know, the wife take care of the house, the husband works, and then that's what you do. But in these generations, that's not really how it works anymore. Most of the time, both parents work and they, you know, divvy up the parenting duties equally. But I think if that doesn't work, then yeah, maybe the mom needs to take a step back, not be so respectful and say, look, what you're doing is hurting me. And I opened up my home to you during COVID so that you're not alone. And no, I don't want to kick you out of the house because we are still in the middle of the pandemic, but you got to work with us. You can't just keep nitpicking at me.
Yeah. And I think that's a great thing to say. Right. And I agree with you, Sarah, that the husband saying, I don't mind doing this goes a long way in terms of standing up to the mom, but in a way where she's not at all threatened and there's not this sort of boundary conversation. It's like, hey, I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
And that I agree. And, you know, the way you approached the honest conversation with the mother-in-law, I think is about as constructive and as non-aggressive as one can be, while still getting the message across.
Right, exactly.
You are Switzerland. Good job being the neutral between us.
Well done.
All right, guys. Well, don't forget to send us your questions, and remember, they always stay anonymous. Bye.